Hey guys, thank you so much for coming in and joining. I just wanted to apologize that we're a couple minutes late here. Welcome as people filter in. I'm just going to tell you the rundown right now. So we have some assorted plant cultures as well as some trimmings from the newest Aquascape 40 gallon. And hey, Jess Shrimp Granny, Dennis Wilson, what's up? Chris S4, Animal Lover number 1, what's up, everybody? Thanks for being here. My wife, as you may see, is in the background, and she is going to be filming for us today and also reading off the questions. You see this little question thing, honey? Mm-hmm. So that way I'll have my hands free while I do this, and she can read off your guys' questions. Then people watching it in the future don't need to read the questions either. You guys can just, you'll hear my wife say them, and she can just say, like, the name of the person who said it, and I'll answer that way. And I'd love to answer, hopefully, more questions while doing more stuff, showing you guys little tips and tricks while I go. Petsaholics, multiple aquariums, hello. Multiple aquariums, that is a disease that I clearly have. So let's get going. I'm going to try to fire up the laptop here too, and also try an OBS thing, but no promises with that. Mr. D's Tank some more, what's up? Come on in. Ask any question tonight, but I'm going to be showing you guys, let's flip this around for a minute. I'm going to be showing you guys working on this tank and its scape. Some of this stuff needs to... This is not a dead fish, by the way. It is a cucumber. That's all that's left. Jess Shrimp Granny says, hello, Alex's wife.
Hello.
So, that is Laura. And, so, also, he always hangs out there. I love my, rainbow, or I like to call him rainbow, but Pandagara. I got stuck calling him that when I heard an Australian call him rainbow Pandagaras. Also, you can see that I've got some longfin green plecos. Hold on one sec. Let's see here. I saw a comment. Where'd you get the rose verge in the thumbnail? Where did I get that? Probably through ADA, probably their tissue culture selection, through Aquariums, which is a shop in Seattle, or I may have got it through my, I may have gotten it through my aquatic club, GSAS, which is the Seattle-based aquatics club. I have 90 to 100 species now. It is not illegal here. It is actually a different variety than the one you're thinking of. It is slightly different, and it is from a culture, so it is, no, so there's 125 species of those, and it is from a culture, and so it makes sure that a lot of these things that look like, parrot's feather, or, the other invasive things like Kabamba is not illegal in our state, by the way, either. But some of the other Myrocrantha species and milfoil kind of stuff like that is illegal. Washington doesn't have warm waters, so our list is a lot different than a lot of places. But Seattle is going to be way different than like California or something. But Robin, you're right, it is illegal, and some plants are illegal in other places and legal here. So I just want to give you an overview of what's going on in this tank. So remember, if you followed me on this tank, it's been up for how long? 2 months now almost. Koi Beta Fin Addiction, welcome. What's up, brother? Just watched the video where you blew yourself up with the CO2 kit. Yeah, that was great, wasn't it? I'm really glad that Solid Equipment doesn't do that, because that kit just was awful. The 45-gram Fluval. I love Fluval stuff, but Fluval's tripping on that one. So in this tank, we've built a fake rise to it. A fake, you can see I left exposed so I could show folks. there's sandbags or media filter bags full of lava rock and already cycled biological media in there for the sake of the fish. So then on top of that, we got a Fluval 3.0 and a cheaper, I don't even know what it was. It was 20 bucks on eBay. It's a very low par light, but it makes the blue stand out well, but doesn't help the plants grow really whatsoever. So in any case, what we try to do, this is called Amazonia Light, and it is like Amazonia's their aqua soils, in that it has nitrates, nitrites. It has all sorts of stuff going on in it that are good for your plants. I like it when you can see the plants just shake and you know it's one of the baby panda cories I have in here. And another funny thing is that the panda cory, that is their Latin name, panda. It's like Corydoras panda, which I think is kind of cute and straightforward. But what we did, if you recall, is we crammed this tank full, and I'll show you, full of fast-growing plants as much as we could. So up here, you can see there's a whole back line of fast-growing plants. We've got floating plants that are water lettuce, red rooster tail, stuff like that. And so that is sucking out the ammonia. We've got 2 filters on it. So at no point did this tank really have much ammonia, and I was able to add fish quickly by planting it so aggressively. But now it's time to trim back some of this stuff, reorganize a little bit, and add the things that I want. Like I've got moss and things like that from upstairs that I would love to add to this tank as it settles in. But I didn't want to put that in and just have it become coated in algae. I had a recent algae video that shows you how to take care of that. As you've noticed, if you saw that video, I have not done any work to this tank since then, and the algae is still completely gone. The critters in the tank have been selected to take care of that now, and they can keep up with it. Hopefully we're past that hump. So what's going on with the plants? Are they melting? No, most plants are doing all right. The only thing that melted a little bit were some crypts. The lotus, which I moved, has melted a bit, even though it was already underwater. It just didn't like being moved. But the tiger crypts, red and black tiger cryptspiralis, they're doing great. Surprisingly, the stargrass is more vivid than when I planted it from upstairs. The hairgrass and the, what else did I plant? The hydrocotyle's gone insane, and it's just, I need to retrain where it's going. Also, I need to fish out these little teeny guys who were fry when I put them in, who are green dragons. So, yeah, but other than that, the tank is stocked pretty well, and we've got shrimp will be the last thing to add when I'm good and sure that there's no chance of an ammonia spike or some unevening thing going on. Plus, you like your tanks to have algae in all the cracks and stuff. Like the rocks should have a green coat, in my opinion, before you really add a shrimp colony. That's just my opinion. It makes life a lot easier. Alright, let me answer a couple of questions really quick. Oh, tissue cultures with them. What's up, fake name? How's it going, man? Is it cold up in BC? Is it still warm? Yeah, also the thing with tissue cultures, let me show you the difference between tissue cultures and the real thing. So, like, we'll get right to this and open up some Bacopa. So this is, smell this, hun. So this is saffron red Bacopa. I have golden Bacopa already back in here, but you can see the landform is not quite the same as the water form, which is right back in there, more spread out, not as dense. Maybe with a lot of CO2 we could get it that dense, but not worrying about that right now, but it's one that, you know, potentially could melt back. There's some more Bacopa there. This is Golden Sunrise Bacopa. But I'm gonna prepare all this and tuck some things in. Most of the Bacopa is gonna go upstairs, quite honestly, later on. But I figured we'd talk plants. Shrimp Granny says, I'm having trouble growing plants in my 29 gallon. I have a fluval skylight. What should I put in there? And also, by the way, Koi Beta Fanatics, I am feeling a lot better tonight. I'm doing well. My wife's been really taking care of me, and basically that is really helping me recover. She just got back from a wedding, and she actually made it so that my friends were here in rotation taking care of me. By the way, we've got a very pregnant swordtail up here. There's platies and swordtails mixed. They have gonopodiums that are too long to breed the males. There is a procedure you can do to fix that issue, or you can just cross the different species. Now, I fixed the issue. That's time for a different episode. I love the panda cories at night because they school around together like this. They do it in the day too, but they're just adorable at night. They kind of just hang out, and they're thinking it's time to scrounge as the sun's setting. The Corridoras, the panda Corridoras, and the panda Gara, who's totally full grown, 3 inches long, is just sitting, and he'll stand up on his fins almost like a bulldog when he's ready to come down and decides there's something worth eating. Also, the algae eater you can see sitting up there chilling, and maybe you can see those wispy fins of one of my long green tail plecos. So, let's get into this.
You didn't answer the shrimp lady's question.
Oh yeah, the shrimp granny, your question. So, what would work well? So, I'm gonna hand the camera over to my wife and start chopping up plants. And if you guys have any questions about that, just toss them out there, but I'll answer that question right now. So here I'm handing it over to the wonderful Lara. So
just keep it on. You want? Okay.
For now. So shrimp granny, Jess, I was thinking that with that light, that's a fine light for medium to low light plants. If you don't have CO2 and a good FERT regiment, it's probably not going to grow your like really bright color, elaborate plants, things like that. But things like Bacopa, these hardier plants that kind of spring back, they don't melt a ton. Those are going to work out well for you probably. Java moss, probably be okay. Java fern, definitely be okay. If you take a look over here at the tank, definitely if you get plants that are already acclimated to underwater life, then your swords will do great, like an ocelot or let's see what other, like a flame sword, that would work great. Also anything in hygrophilia, some of the bigger hygrophilias and the lilies should do okay if you plant those from bulbs. They grow in low light. If you want a carpeting plant, that's a little tougher, but a lot of people with harder water do well with dwarf hairgrass, stuff like that. And then I would go for like that Anubias up there, which is an Anubias coffifolius with the ruffles in the leaves, just like coffee if you're looking for it. And then there's also Anubias nana petite. Those are great hardy plants. Also, fish seem to not nibble on them. Like even goldfish will think twice before that. Other than that, I would go with, you can use, let's see here, Limnophilia aromatica. If it's an adult and already in water form, that works well. Val is another one. This is corkscrew val growing up here. I got that from Lucas Bretz for $5. So that's another good one if you're trying to fill up space. And then Japanese blixa, which is what those clumps of grass are, the biggest clumps of grass, which right now I'm really just wanting roots to grow in on this slope so that it stops the erosion down the pathway from the cliffside, so to speak. But I would give those plants a shot with that light, and I would also say that you're probably safe with, yeah, most sword ferns, most of those, they'll melt back, and as long as you have your core leaf, just, you know, keep at it, that's fine. It'll last. Anything that floats will probably be okay as long as the flow isn't too hard. And then other than that, get yourself a daily fert if you don't have one. I assume you probably have Easy Green or something.
She says, I do ferts, Easy Green, and Seachem Iron every week.
Seachem Iron, perfect. So you don't need to overdo the Seachem Iron probably. So let me explain with the CO2 a little bit. CO2 brings out the full potential in plants. It is the carbon in the plants. So that's why, let's open this one. So this is Monte Carlo, also known as Micranthium, and actually, I don't know what variant this is, but you see how tight and small those clusters are? Well, once they get into the tank, they're actually tangled up in this. Let me move some of this. They actually get tangled up in the, like this is hydrocaudal here, but it has some Monte Carlo tied up in the bunches of it. And same with back up in here. So you actually get a lot like these. Pearlweed's another great one. This is some pearlweed you see here. The rounder leaves are the Monte Carlo, and they can get bigger. So what the CO2 and the highlights do, if we take a look at like how small this is again, is, and this is a culture, so it's young also still, and you can see it has some roots. But what the CO2 will do for you guys is basically it allows the plants to grow if the right elements are already there. So you need the light, you need the ferts, you need the soil, and water flow, minerals, micro and macro ferts.
She said, I grow all those plants in my 20-gallon with a starter kit light, except for the blixa.
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 Okay, yeah, so that should work in your 29, I would assume. If none of that is working, you might have some sort of issue with your substrate, I'm wondering. If your substrate isn't an active substrate, maybe consider some root tabs, but test your nitrates if you're going to do that, because you can get nitrates out through the roof. If you're not careful. Question
from Robin Yahood. Will you sell some that... Oh, it went away. Hold on. Will you sell some that high grow that looks like Rosenberg?
Yes.
Yes.
I can sell that depending on what state you're in. If you're in Washington, definitely. Other states, message me on Facebook and we'll figure it out, because certain states, I think like Florida and some of these.
In Ohio. Yay, I'm from Ohio.
Yeah, my wife's from Ohio. So I'm not sure how that goes with the Great Lakes being there. I know that's a sensitive issue. Like in general, just everything in the Great Lakes, they're really cautious about. And so
IO. He said OH.
So we'll have to check that out. But yeah, let me double check. I probably save the tissue culture label. I like to do that if I don't know what the plant is by looking at it right that second. Usually I will save that culture. So what we're doing right here, I know I've got tools, but I like to use my hands usually. So the plan here is we're going to take this this Monte Carlo, which looks nothing like the Monte Carlo you have underwater unless you're pumping crazy amounts of CO2 into the tank and crazy high light. Because the brighter the light, the less the plants have to reach for the light. so they stay squatter. And then the more nutrients, the more they pack in color and, you know, interesting things to it. But these little tissue culture cups from ADA actually have a lot in them as far as material to start with. This size of material will melt frequently. So my advice is, if you're having trouble with things like this melting in your tanks, is plant a piece this big and not this big. Let that grow and then break it up, because it may melt back a little bit, whereas this piece has no room for error. And I'm kind of testing that out for this tank. We'll see, you know, how it goes. We shall see. So I think the big ones are going to be like this. But I've decided that I like the dwarf swordgrass or stargrass here. The quarries really like it, but it is growing too high. This corner's too cluttered, and now that the nitrates have been sucked down to a level that's more manageable, I want to kind of carpet a path so there's more a winding path of the stargrass, this stuff here, and trim it down again. So the stargrass is it's a double-edged sword to work with stargrass, because it's a great plant, but you end up frequently having to trim it if you have it. So like, I'll cut this piece here, and I can replant that right up ahead if I want. So what I do while I work is, a lot of times I'll get a colander, something like that, and I'll just throw the pieces in it. It's better if you have some water or something, but I just kind of do that if it's not going to be a long time and I know the plants I'm working with. Here you can see the moss has kind of come back out. It's actually reached for the light because we got that algae out of the way. You can see that the cribs are, or the crypts I should say, are doing fine. And the stargrass is running on its own, and so trimming it, you just have to be aggressive. So you see this stargrass, how it's actually getting tall? You can just cut that right, you know, here. It's better to cut it with scissors, ideally, because you do less tissue damage. But if you have a sharp fingernail, I like to keep one sharp, and I'm going to get the... This is what remains of a cucumber from last night, by the way. That's what plecos will do to it. But that gives you enough for a start in another tank, or you can sell it and buy more plants. It's always good to be able to sell off your extra plants. Now, stargrass, I've had it melt down and turn black and gross in a tank very quickly also on me. So I have a love-hate relationship with that. I know a lot of people want to buy a kit with all the tools and stuff, and that's fine. If that's your jam, that's your jam. But I've decided that I like using my hands a little bit more when I can. But with really delicate plants, I use scissors for sure. So what I'm doing while I'm working through here is then I'll be collecting moss and just other plants that kind of have come through. I don't necessarily know all the types of moss I have here, so I'm just going to pile them up. They'll probably float off wherever. I'm not worried about it. But
got a question.
Yeah.
And from Mr. D's Tanks and More, does stargrass need CO2?
That's a good question. No, it does not need CO2. Does CO2 help stargrass? You better believe it. So, stargrass grows very slow, and it can get leggy. And if you can zoom in here, hon, can you guys see how it's blackened right here? It's gotten a gray color to it at all, back under here and the stem of it. That is what happens a lot of times. So it doesn't stay as bright green. So I would recommend, rather than the stargrass, I would recommend something like Blixa. This is another little trick that I don't want people to see when they're observing the aquarium, but this is not part of the wood. Aquascapers are always doing that, our little tricks. Oh, look, I found some boosts. So there's some baby boosts. Want to make sure it's got enough light. I'm going to set it back up in here for later. If nothing else, it'll float up to the top of the tank, and still just nitrates, nitrites will have they'll be sucked out by that. You can see my gouramis are all frazzled and prickly. So when you're working here, I do have a few species of fish that have spines. So if you do, just be a little careful, be gentle. I like to let them know that I'm coming by kind of, shaking the shack a little bit. But you can see here, my panda cories are in here. And believe it or not, a lot of people don't think of corydoras as being capable of hurting a fly. But, well, if you've seen them eat bloodworms, you know they're capable of eating a lot of flies. But they definitely, certain species have sharp spines on them. So adding to the ball of moss, getting more hair grass. We're going to try this hair grass upstairs. So we're going to throw that into the totally low-tech. There's not even root tabs in the one upstairs. And we're going to see how that goes. Now, a lot of times, I like to call these just tangle plants. And so this is Hydrocaudal reticulatus. It's a Japanese pennywort, then a micro pennywort. There is also, I want to say, pearlweed, and as we said, Monte Carlo, and maybe one or two other little plants in there too, mosses and things like that. But I like to just let this stuff grow and throw it into a far corner to hide maybe like a sponge filter or whatever it may be that's in your tank. And then you can do the same thing with moss. It doesn't need as much light. You can just tuck it in somewhere and it'll grow out as it pleases. And then when you need it for a project or something, you can go for it. But really, a lot of stem plants and a lot of these ground cover type plants like this stuff, this pearlweed, it's just kind of grown out of control since I planted it. And I can take this anytime I want now, and if I use glue or rubber bands or whatever, I can train it around whatever I want. So I just kind of push it back into the corner, and then I use the floating plants on top here, which actually I just raided for another tank. But if you get some big water lettuce, this stuff grows in these groups, and you can actually keep all your wadded up plant material for drapescaping, as I like to call it, in the corner, and then not worry about it as much. So, yeah.
Had one question come in.
Yeah.
From Koi Beta Fanatics. Do you currently keep apistos?
Apistos. No, I do not have any apistos right now. I have a couple of cribs. I'm trying to think. The last time I had apistos was a long while ago. I have had some opportunities to get some really amazing Agazizii, double fire red, orange, a few different kinds that came my way out of nowhere. And I just decided that if I had them, I wanted to breed them, and that I wasn't... right now my energy is going to breeding towards a bunch of things. And so I just want to focus on those. And cribs, apistos, they make babies like crazy. And yes, you may be able to sell an adult very quickly, and they may cost a lot of money. Whoa, this gourami's not happy. This poor gal is mad that I'm messing with her little hiding area. So we'll leave them a little bit of the grass.
Another question from Technoala. Have you?
What's up, Technoala?
Hold on. Okay, there we go. Have you ever seen Blixa japonica grown immersed? Sorry for my pronunciation.
Yeah. Blixa japonica grown immersed. Totally, it's a great one to grow. Immersed, as long as it's like almost totally immersed. It is a true aquatic plant. Meaning that you can't, it just has to be totally underwater, its root system and its nutrients. But it's okay, it can still get its carbon at the top that's what we're doing when we use CO2 underwater, is we're kind of faking it until we make it with the carbon that's in normal air. So you're adding in carbon, which, if you think about it, what does a plant eat? Well, yeah, we've got the fertilizers that plants use that we all know of. But what does a plant use? What are we all? Like, what type of life forms are we? Carbon-based life forms. And so that is the building block. And yes, it needs oxygen, nitrogen, amino acids, things like that. But the cells are able to take the sun through, obviously through photosynthesis. They can turn that into energy, or ATP, in their cell, in their mitochondria, that is. And as long as that is... See, this is what's going on. You guys see what I just planted? And you see who's decided to come dig it up immediately? So these little bibaltes, or not bibaltes, sorry. These, the Coridora, why am I spacing on their name? Somebody's going to be like, you silly... Anyways, this Coridora are already ripping up my plants. So the idea is, though, that I'm going to be planting the the smallest Monte Carlo and stuff down in front. Ow! That Siamese algae eater seriously just bit me, like nipped me pretty good. I'm going to do a reverse optical illusion trick because you can't see the back that well, and so it's more for fish. But generally what you would do with carpeting stuff is you put the bigger stuff right in the front, and you get a similar shaped leaf or plant. So you'd get a rounded or spade shaped leaf, and you'd plant small versions of it up here. And so it's an optical illusion, like in a painting or something, as, you know, the row of houses or trees or whatever they are get smaller into the distance. You can play that same trick within a foot. So that's always a nice little trick if you're trying to do that. Also, I want this Monte Carlo to stabilize this hillside, hopefully. And with Monte Carlo, when it's cut like this, you have a chance of totally causing it to melt when you're doing what I'm doing here. And that is basically shoving it underground and covering a good chunk of the plant. So the plant will, some of this will melt. But hopefully it will put down enough roots in the areas that are not covered, because it's really a plant that is much, much, much better suited for dry starting in a tank. So that's one reason why I wanted to show people, yes, it is possible to deal with Monte Carlo in an already planted tank. Tissue cultures even.
Okay, I have another question from Koi Beta Fanatics.
Yeah, what's up, man?
I purchased an orange bee shrimp that's holding babies. I can see them moving in her saddle. Is there anything I can do to assist her? How long will she be holding?
Well, it depends on how long she's had those babies, but they're for sure fertilized, so that's good. If she's got... Oh, wait. Did you say they're in her saddle?
Yes.
So if there are eggs in her saddle, then that means they're not fertilized yet. Those are waiting for her to get the right pheromone signal from a male and also have enough protein in her diet. So make sure you're getting her enough protein and omega acids, fatty acids. That will really, really help ensure that she gets, the nutrition she needs. The eggs have formed also, but depending on which shrimp you have, and you said you have a Taiwan bee that's orange. I don't know if it's a King Kong or like what it is, if it's crossed back from a Michelin, but you want to make sure that there's ample biofilm. I always say catappa leaves, maybe a little bit of Bacter AE would help. It just ensures that there's stuff in the water, because the other thing that helps female shrimp breed is if you if you trick them, and this is a good tip for all fish and shrimp. But if they sense that what they need is in the water, they will want to have babies. If you know, it's just like a parent. If you look around and you live in a pig pen, you're less likely to want to raise babies and to be in the mood. Look at this gourami's trying to challenge my hand. Not gonna happen. Sorry, girl. And these guys are eating off my arm. It's like one of those Chinese massages, foot massages. But yeah, so in any case, if there's enough baby, brine shrimp or for fish, or if there's enough bacteria and bio film on things for shrimp, or Bacter AE in the water, which really is just like a yeasty spirulina type stuff that encourages it to grow more. If there's enough of that in the environment, that will really help the mother and the fathers think, hey, we should have a baby right about now. Like, it's everything it needs to survive is in there, but you got to have a father present that's of the same species that is viable with it. So I hope you have a male that is viable with it. Otherwise, that saddle will just sit there. She may even drop them down on underneath, but they would not be fertile. She'll end up just dropping them and getting rid of them.
Another question from Us Outdoors. Anyone know the best way to keep green spot algae under control when it's growing on plants?
Green spot. So now, are you talking about diatom, like the hard algae that grows on glass too, and it's like you have to use a razor blade to get it off? Or are you talking about the cyanobacteria that looks kind of green and it's like slimy? Or are you talking about the kind that on plants looks like it's in little clumps, but it has hair that grows from it? If you can tell me which one of those you're talking about specifically.
Oh, hard algae, razor blade stuff.
Okay, so from that, that's odd. I'm guessing that you have some sort of really hard plant like Anubias or swords of some sort, I'm assuming. For that, a lot of people think on their Anubias that they have that growing, and it's actually a fungi, and a lot of people call it just the Anubias black rot. And as far as I know, nobody's come up with a really good solution for it other than cutting back it and kind of letting new leaves come in. But as long as the rhizomes are okay, it'll be okay. Neorite snails are going to be probably your best bet for that, for actually munching it off plants. Or Florida flagfish might give it a go, but believe it or not, mollies and little live bears are surprisingly interested in trying to nibble stuff off things if you don't feed them regularly, which sounds mean, but like if you don't feed them all the time, every day, their food, which is fine. Fish live that way in the wild all the time. They'll scavenge for stuff. So, I don't know. There's a couple things I threw out at you there, but my guess is probably that if it's on the plants, it's probably not the diatom algae. It's probably more of a fungi or cyanobacteria complex, and aufuk. You can watch videos on those. But give that a try. If that fails, or if you can't get that under control, maybe take it out of the light a little bit too. Like, let the plant, the leaves that have it, get out of the light. But what I would do is I would also, if you have to get desperate, get one of these or a turkey baster. But these, a hypodermic needle just from a pharmacy, depending on where you live, you can get them. Other places you can't. And they're going to look at you like you're either a diabetic or a junkie. But you can get them, fill them with hydrogen peroxide, literally like fill it like 1 cc or whatever, 0.1 cc, 0.10 cc, and just squirt in the tank right onto the spots on the leaf. It will kill the plant itself too, but it might be worth just experimenting with if all else fails. A lot of people use that specifically for blackbeard. Use hydrogen peroxide in a syringe.
Okay, let's see. Do you recommend almond leaves for neo shrimp? That's from Koi Veta.
Oh yeah, totally. So Neocaridina shrimp or cherry shrimp, blue dream shrimp, all those guys, they love Catappa almond leaves. Anything that is a living / decaying leaf, or sorry, not living leaf, but living or decaying surface, so wood, cholla wood, things like that, they're gonna absolutely love. And so I totally recommend that. Do it. It also has antifungal properties, so that can help things like, you know, other people have had issues in here with spot algae and possibly spot fungus growing on their plants. And Catappa leaves, even though they may tint your water a little yellow until you've done a couple water changes, they have some properties which scientists are trying to study and figure out what exactly is in there that is helping out just like so much with fungi.
We've got from Techno Ala, how often for changing almond leaf and alder cones?
Okay, so what I usually do is I just let them dissolve. I let them fall apart on their own. I think alder cones are a little more abrasive. You can kind of tell when they're spent because the shrimp aren't hanging out with them as much too. But if you want a firm timeline, I would say a month or 2 months, somewhere in there.
Nate Thomas asks, any leaves you should not use?
Yes. Any odoriferous leaves, I think I'm making up that word. Any leaves like from a juniper tree or cedar, most pine trees, definitely not, but like a juniper tree would be bad. Mahogany would be bad. If you're in the tropics, any tree that has a really strong smell probably has oils in the wood which are going to come out, and they have strong properties. Some of them have strong antibacterial properties, just like the Indian almond leaf, but others have some properties which aren't so great. So, yeah. I'm going to go throw this in the other tank, but I'm listening.
Sorry. Okay, let's see. Jess Shrimp Granny, my koi placket is constantly...
Placot,
sorry.
No,
yeah.
Okay.
Glass surfing my 29-gallon community tank. If I paint it, will he stop? He has a huge cave and plants all over the place.
He probably sees his own reflection, so painting it actually may create a real mirror, and so that might be the exact opposite of what you want to do. I would say that you should probably diffuse his line of sight a little bit if you can. I know that's hard if he's doing it right up front. If you can put a plant in his way just so he, can't pace so much, that might help. But the other thing that always helps, and by the way, this is how little Boost comes, Bucephalandra or Bucephalandra, comes in tissue cultures. ADA has, I got some from Aquariums called Sintang Black, and then also I've gotten some Blue Ghost and some Brownie strains. So ADA has stepped up their game on what they are supplying, whereas these clippings were costing, you could pay like $10 to $30 for something this size. Now now you get all these pieces for $10 or $12.
So she says that he's really chill and never ever flares, and it's the front of the tank that he's surfing.
Okay, so you could try, and I say try, to put a mirror ball in there. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but different people have different opinions on whether that's good or bad. But you can get males to be aggressive towards their mirror ball rather than other fish in the tank, because they're going to see a male and they're going to be like, hey, get out of my territory. So you can try a mirror ball. By the way, when you're planting booths, you can literally float it like this. I usually just pin it somewhere, but it is a rhizomorphic plant, meaning that it absorbs its energy from rhizomes, little stemmy things at the bottom. They're not roots. Putting it in the soil, they'll usually just rot. And so letting it float is a nice alternative. But if you want, like what I'll do when I'm not live, sometimes you can just tuck it like this piece. If I tuck this well, it'll probably just stay right there and grow into the wood, just like this moss has. But eventually I want this to have boosts all over, and I'll break off pieces as it grows. And that being that close to the top, we can get the par high enough on the lights that it should flower also. So that, I'm really excited if we can get that to happen.
Mr. D's tank says he can't get 88 products in Cincinnati. Can you recommend a website to order from?
Ooh, boy, can you get Tropica products? If you can't get ADA, Tropica is your next best bet. They're a UK company, I believe. Tropica, I think they're UK. Either UK or German, but I'm pretty sure they're UK. Maybe they're French or German. I don't know. Sorry, guys. I might be screwing that up. But ADA, let's see. There was a website that was an American affiliate, but it just closed, and I literally still have pots from them here. And some of these are from them, which is a bummer. They closed down. Isn't it crazy? We don't have a single. So here's a good example of a rhizome cluster. This was from Hedgelata, African fern, and it has died back totally. It was not in its water form. I don't want to bury it, but I will put it somewhere where it gets good water flow. Rhizome plants like good water flow, like here or something. And they get their nutrients from the water. So if I can tuck it in, maybe under there, they don't so much need light, but the flow of nutrients is what gets their gears grinding. As far as ordering, look for ADA or Aquascape Amano products online. Just look for them online and see what you come up with, because right now I'd probably have to Google it to know where they come from. But they are getting into the U.S. There are transshippers putting them in, like getting them into the States, so I assume someone's selling them online. So, yeah, and definitely H2O plants, water plants. Justin, the owner there, he definitely has connections to people with cultured plants through some company. I can't remember where they ended up being from when I got them, but yeah, he had a lot of good cultured plants. So what I'm doing right now is I'm putting a lot of these plants into another tank, and what I'm doing is I just like to see what they look like when they're super, like this is a 15-watt light, I think, and there's no root tabs in here. It's just gravel and fish poop, And I like to just see how the plants will turn out. Oh, there's some fluorite too to help stick things in the ground. As you can see though, a lot of things that, here's another example. I'll bring it over. So this is Rotala pink, and if you notice, doesn't look so pink, does it? Well, in this tank, if you can see that, it's pretty pink, right? So that's the difference of light and CO2, and I can't even tell what plant I have sometimes. And just for you guys watching, like as a little cookie, why don't we plant this one and double check what it is. We'll take this one from that other tank that I just had. We'll plant it right here in front, and keep an eye out in the future for what that turns into. How's that sound?
Sounds great, honey.
Yeah. So this is a tank that Betsy got me, by the way, if I haven't showed it, you guys this. There's some driftwood in. It's having some serious melting problems. It is just kind of, it was uprooted totally. So there's things like Monte Carlo in here, but since it's someone else's tank that Betsy got me, which was really sweet, but that she got me, and you can see there's leopard danios in there that I put in there, as well as shrimp. Oh, and by the way, here is that Japanese pennywort out of the water, semi-immersed. And here's Monte Carlo, as well as some Java moss submerged, immersed. So the water, through capillary action, grows up the rock. So that's what happens if you glue it to a rock, wait, and then submerge it for maybe 6 months, and then you can pull it out of full immersion and kind of play with it. So yeah. What else have we got going on, honey?
What are you opening next? I don't have a new question. I don't think.
No questions. All right.
Did I miss anybody? I might have missed somebody.
So, the last plant I'm probably showing y'all tonight, and I'll probably do an extra live stream this week just because I'm feeling sassy. And mentally I'm getting my brain back a lot better. Also, by the way, keep your eye out for LRB Aquatics, Lucas Bretz. If you like his shirt and his merch that's come out, I'm working on all of that for him. And so there should be some new designs in the works very soon. So what this is a Rotala pink. I don't know where all this hair's coming from. It was in the pot. I wonder if... Boy, that's not good.
That's my hair.
Okay, maybe it was in the water then. Okay, I was gonna say, if there's hair in a supposedly hermetic sealed spot, I'm unhappy. But this is supposed to be a nice pink Rotala, like the other one, but just another variant. This is like a Thai Rotala. Aquarium Zen, if you live in the Seattle area, they have pink miniature butterfly also right now. So get in and grab that if you can, if you want it.
Got a question from Just Do in Florida. Do you have any crawfish?
Crawfish across the board are illegal here in Washington. I think you can have one type of lobster maybe. I used to have CPDs and or not CPDs, sorry, I'm thinking of fish. CPOs, the Mexican crawfish. I used to have self-cloning ones, so I've played with them over the years. I really love the blue Mexican ones, but there is a species that's not specifically listed in the book of rules and regulations. There's one that's not listed that is from West Virginia that is a semi-aquatic, so you'd need to give it a spot to get out of the water, I believe. And it's beautiful. It's blue and it's just beautiful. But it's not listed. But in Washington, they listed just like the entire what's it called? Not the family, but the even more broad than family in scientific terms. Genera of fish or of crawfish animals. They were just like, nope, you're not gonna have any of it. So I guess we don't get to have any of it. But that being said, I sure happen to know a lot of people who happen to get it, and I happen to know a lot of websites that will still ship it. But me being on YouTube and all, and just me being such a good citizen, I would not dare think of bringing them in and or showing them on TV. Would be pretty dumb. So, but it's a bummer because the small ones, there's no way they're gonna live outside in the Northwest. So that's sad. Although there's a great National Geographic story about how the self-cloning crawfish, crayfish, however you want to say it, literally has taken over Southern California. It's pretty insane. Pretty insane indeed. So, any other questions there, hon? Or are we wrapping it up?
There's one more from Nate Thomas. Can you get them from, or excuse me, can you get them for eating? I like them spicy with a cold beer. That's definitely a Florida staple.
Yeah, definitely.
or Louisiana.
You know, surprisingly, you might be able to get them dead. I don't know how that, like for like frozen, you may be able to get them. I don't know the laws on that, but definitely can't have them shipped in alive, period, ever, which is a bummer. And I'm trying to think what else. There's a few other, like snakehead fish and milfoils. Even though there's some beautiful milfoils that would never take over our waterways, it just takes one to spoil the whole bunch, right, guys?
Oh yeah, Techno Allah says you can buy them. You can buy frozen cooked ones in Washington.
Great. Yeah, so put those in your fish tank, and your fish will love to eat them. Also, you can see if you follow up here, hon. All this has turned. I'm just going to let this grow over since it's not really blocking out the light of other plants. My goal was to build a wall, and I already have cut these stem plants like 5 times and replanted. So even though I thought it was going to take forever to build a wall, it took like a couple weeks. And you know what? This Blixa is really, this is Glosso, and it is not cooperating whatsoever. I kind of want to put some Glosso in with the Stargrass, because Stargrass thinks it's boss all the time, and I feel like I just need to like put Stargrass in its place. And just sometimes, like, I want to have a few carpeting plants. I like that tangled look, like that nature, you know, like, I have stem plants that are stacking out, reaching towards the light, things like that. But fish, they friggin' love that. Like, these, as you can see, these pandacories are, well, they're already screwing with everything. But they love the thickness of these plants down at the bottom, so I don't want to mess with their party. We're gonna stick to that. There we go. That's tucked in better now. So, but we did have a slight landslide here. This rock fell down, and it needs to be kind of readjusted into the hillside. But I want to fill in with more substrate in here. So that will happen, but it will happen slowly because I don't want to shock anybody in the system who's sensitive to ammonia, because adding that will really release a lot of ammonia. Also, this side, I thought it would be cool to have a plant that that covered the corners well, both corners. But this plant has just, this is like 4 days of growth. And one of these is a, that's just ridiculous. I don't need that fast a growth. But one of these plants is from my club, and a guy who goes and collects plants for nurseries and things. It's an Afghan pogostemon, and then there's one that's Australian here, and they grow like 6 inches on a hot day. Literally, I'll cut them here and they'll be up to the top again. So they are really, really, really insane plants. And if you have a low light situation, some of those crazy plants. Here's another, by the way. This is a plant that, what plant was this? Is that Boost that's just died back? That's sad. So here's a plant that's lost. It's tangled with some arculata. But here's rhizomes hanging out here, right there. That was weird. What was that?
I don't know.
And these rhizomes, if I leave them out in the water, they will plant themselves. But I can also tuck them into a corner down here. You can put some of a rhizome plant underwater, and that'll be okay. Or, I mean, under the soil, and that'll be okay. You just don't want to put the whole thing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these plants that I was just commenting are ridiculously fast growing, and I'm going to throw them in the lowest light tanks that I have. And then from there, I can sell them whenever I feel like it. But they'll grow maybe an inch a week in this condition, and that's fine. That's fast enough. That's plenty. So, other than that, I want to thank you. That's a good look, right?
I just bought him the shorts.
Yeah. Alright, so other than that, let me join my wife here because I want to give her credit where credit is due. Alright, wife. I mean, blank wall. Okay, so thank you guys so much. Boy, I look crazy with my hair in this thing. So, focus.
Yeah, I'm all blurry.
There we go.
Oh, this looks...
How should you go about forcing pearlweed to form a carpet? Yell at it every day. Just scream, carpet! And it's kind of like planks. If you guys have ever done like planks like at a workout camp. If you just make it do it enough. No. What you should do is you can take a mesh. This is what I do. I don't know if anyone else does this. You can take a mesh, like a thin, like chicken wire type mesh, like for hobby arts and crafts kind of stuff. And you want metal, like tin or something, or aluminum, but you just stake that down so it can't grow up out of it. As it grows out of it, cut out whatever grows out of it, and then replant those little pieces, and just keep trimming it over and over, and that'll more and more. Every time you trim it, it'll split into two. So be conscious of where you trim it. So the first time you trim it right near the ground where its roots have taken hold after it's grown up a bit. Next time, let it grow a little more, trim it. But then the other thing you can do is grow it out a bit, turn it this way, sideways in your tank, and literally tuck in the head into the dirt, and then trim it. Or just leave that head tucked into the dirt. It will put out root feelers out the bottom side and orient wherever the light is, if it's got light coming out of it. So let's see what else was said here. Hi, Erwin Sayak. Just watched a recent video about Malawis Sulawesi shrimp, and I like it. I bought them almost 5 months ago and are changing color from brown to slightly red or blue. Is that normal? That's totally normal. So what that is one, that is their hormones and corticosteroids, but it's also their chromatophores, which are under their exterior skeleton, you know, the keratin, their exoskeleton. And I have a video called How Do Shrimp Change Colors? Or Why Are My Shrimp Changing Colors? Something along those lines. And it goes into really extensive detail about that. Also, I go into detail on that about guppies, like how active camouflage works, and there's basically 2 or 3 methods of pigmentation, the way they change, that causes that. The other cause, the one you worry about, is when you're the 2 things to worry about with the coloration of your shrimp really are if they get all mottled or have like a green furry stuff on them. That's really bad. That is I can't remember the full name. Anyways, it's bad. Your shrimp's done. If you see green fur on your shrimp, it's dead. Like, it's gonna die. And it will infect every other shrimp in your colony if you don't get it quick. But the other thing would be just to watch out for like white or pale colored shrimp bodies. And unless they, ellipsodi or ellipsod, man, I can't ever say it off the top of my head, but it's 3 words. So, and you'll find it if you look up green shrimp disease, Neocaridina shrimp disease. To avoid that, really buy from U.S. domestic suppliers, or if they are transshippers, get them from people like, Flip Aquatics. He's great. Rob's great over there. He's had issues with it and treated them. Everything goes into quarantine. Aquatic Arts, I actually have a new deal with them. 15% off everything in their store. And sometimes they'll honor that on top of other codes if you tell them that you saw it from my channel. All that's in the information below in the description. So get it from someone like that. If you're feeling really frisky, you could buy from someone like me or Lucas Bretz. I have Lucas's strains of the A strain, his like private collection of blues, because I helped him on some art projects and that his poster and shirt. So I have those and tiger endlers that most people don't have if they're saying they have that strain, because he was kind enough to hook me up. So hope to never see you. LOC Bopsidae. What? That's awesome. Yeah. I'll buy shrimp from you if you want to ship them. Yeah, you know, I haven't done it in a while, but Jess, I feel like you'd be a good trial person, because I know, like, you're pretty chill, and so maybe we'll try it out. We'll try some, like, C grade, if that's okay, which are his quote-unquote B grade on his website. So they're still... Here, I'll just show them to you right now. But first...
I'm gonna sign off.
Yeah, my wife will sign off. So
thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for supporting my lovely husband.
Thanks, guys. And thank you for supporting the GoFundMe and all the super chats. It helps me do this project and this hobby, and on a budget where selling the shrimp and other stuff is how I go about it. But the blue dreams like these, let's see, where are they? Here we are. There's not real good lighting here, but that's my C-string blue dreams. So I sell those for $5 a pop, usually, plus tax in theory, and if they're going across state lines. And then I sell all the way up to a $15 like incredible line that's his A string. Here my B string line is down here. And then my A string is upstairs. So these are the B string. So they have no modeling, no splotchiness, but they do have see-throughness like a topaz shrimp would have. And the other shrimp literally have no flaws whatsoever. Hold on, I'm turning off a light. Have no flaws whatsoever that I ever have seen. And they are his A class. From there, I've been weeding them out to like the strongest ones of the A class. So I don't know, it's been a labor of love for both of us. I respect his process so much that's why I put the time in to even refine that. So literally now I haven't had to cull a shrimp from that group. They'll have 20, 30 babies. I haven't had to cull a shrimp in like 2 months maybe from that group, and those are 15 a pop. So yeah, let's see here. Name on Facebook. My name on Facebook is just Alexander Williamson, and there's a link in the description. Like I said, join the Facebook group. Can you make B class become A class? Oh, totally. That's what he did. That's what I did. This is my A class. So these guys are consistently just a beautiful blue. I mean, they're just little perfect pearls out. That one's got a saddle, and the only way you can tell is that it's deeper blue right there. This is what that boost will grow out to. This is the moss will grow out to. We've got a little panda loach on the leaf there, and some ultra super red. Let's see here. The Secret History Living Room Aquarium Facebook group. Yeah, come on by. Like what she said. Too bad international shipping wasn't easier. Well, fake name, if you ever come down to the Peace Arch or Nelson, BC. Oh, I haven't had those guys come out on film yet. So these are new zebra loach. Well, now they're gone. Zebra loaches that I added to this tank. But yeah, these are my A-string blues. These ones go for the 15 a pop. Because, like, that's a male. You'll never see a male that blue anywhere else. Its eyeballs are even blue. And every antenna and every bit of it, no difference in color. So, yeah, unless it's really stressed. But, yeah, and they live in all sorts of water. So, really versatile as a cherry shrimp. Dang, that is a blue shrimp. Yeah, it is. Thank Lucas and the people who came before him. Because that's 15 years of every day watching shrimp, making sure even like another thing I do is I'll flip the lights on in the middle of the night, and if a shrimp isn't blue or red enough, out with the shrimps. So they have to make the cut at night even too, even though their pigment fades considerably at night. And I've seen plenty of shrimp that I would say, oh, that's an amazing red shrimp, but at night it's like a pinky clear color, and that I don't play that. Look at that blue on that one. It's got babies ready to come out too. So, all right, guys. Well, I gotta go. I hope you're doing well. That you learned a little something tonight, and we'll talk again soon. Have a great evening. Take it easy. Check out the links below in the description. Like, subscribe, share, whatever it may be if it tickles your fancy. Take care of yourselves, your tanks, the people around you, and it will all come back your way and work out just fine. I'm living proof. All right, good night, all. Good night, Mr. D. I agree what Mr. D says. All right, guys, I'll talk to you next time in the next upload or next live cast. Take it easy.